So my dear brothers and sisters, reflecting upon these noble sayings of our blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I decided to stay here to spend some time with my mother after the recent death of my father. Now, the death of my father is something that I would like to share with you, and the remarkable story of how, alhamdulillah, just 10 days before he died, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him to make the shahada, the testimony of faith, on his lips. In fact, not only once that happened 10 days before he died, but 3 or 4 days before he died, I spent half an hour with my father in the hospital. Half an hour going over with him again and again and again the testimony of faith. There is no God, there is nothing worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. And there is a really great lesson in my father and his shahada for all of us, because calling the world back to Allah, of course, is all about dawah. It's all about calling those people who are not yet Muslim to Islam. But our duty, brothers and sisters, as we do emphasize, is not to convert anyone. In fact, Allah did not ask us to make people Muslim. Allah told us to pass on the message. بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ وَجَدِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, with wisdom and a beautiful exhortation, a good admonition, and to debate and argue and discuss with them in the ways that are best. And so that's our duty. We are givers, we are the ones who bring warning of a terrible punishment, the hellfire. And indeed, not only is the punishment consigned to the next life, there is in reality a punishment and humiliation in this life as well for those who reject Allah. And our duty is to warn people about that reality. But our duty is also to bring the good news, bashiran, the good news, my brothers and sisters, of the beauty of Islam, the peace, the tranquility, the happiness, the joy that Islam brings to the heart, and of course the delight and the beauty of paradise that is waiting for those who follow Allah's guidance and accept His ways. So our duty is to convey the message, to pass the message, to explain to the people in the best way that we can. Guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the one who guides. He guides whom He wills, and He knows best who is worthy of guidance. I'll be honest with you, brothers and sisters. I really never thought that my father would take shahada. I mean, for me, my father was a fantastic man. I have to say, he as a father, he was amazing. Anyone who met him, he was a real outstanding personality, and no one could describe him as a bad person or a particularly saintly person. He was what he was. But in many ways, throughout the years, the 23 plus years that I've been Muslim, and throughout those years, I have done many, many things to invite my father to Islam. Subhanallah, when I first started practicing Islam, of course I talked to him. I wrote him letters. I wrote him long letters. I gave him books to read. Subhanallah, whatever I could do. And when I'd exhausted the realms of possibilities in terms of giving him materials and talking to him, I just decided that I should restrict myself to giving the best example that I possibly could of how Islam should be, of how Islam should be lived, of how Islam teaches me to respect him as a parent. And I always really, sometimes I have to say, thought that my father was really, to be honest, someone who I thought was very closed-minded to the possibilities of Islam. Actually, quite frankly, brothers and sisters, sometimes when I read the verses of the Quran describing the people, the disbelievers, I felt as if those verses were sometimes describing my father and his attitude. So, brothers and sisters, I didn't have much hope that he was going to become Muslim. Right now, brothers and sisters, I'd like us all to reflect deeply upon the lessons from the story of my father. And for me, the lesson that I have learned and that I would like to pass on to you is really about patience and perseverance. Many times, brothers and sisters, and even what we teach in IERA in our one-day Dawah training courses is often very much based upon the idea that we have a conversation with someone and we try to get them to take Shahada right there on the spot. And of course, that's fantastic if we can do that. But sometimes the process is a long process. Sometimes it takes years and years. Sometimes you're facing someone who seems to be sometimes the very epitome of kufr, the very description of a disbeliever that you come across in the Quran. Yet, subhanallah, Allah can change the hearts. And often our job, brothers and sisters, is to plant the seeds. And it may seem right now to many of you that you live in a hostile environment, that you're surrounded by people, by a society that have a very negative perception of Islam. And it seems so hard to get the message of Islam across to them. But brothers and sisters, you need to have patience. You need to persevere. You need to realize and understand that honestly, if Allah can guide my father to Islam and he can die with the testimony of faith on his lips, it's possible for anybody to become Muslim. We should always have hope. We should always have that hope and that care and that concern for our fellow human beings, that they are guided to this beautiful, beautiful religion of Islam. Nuh alayhi salam, for 950 years, he called his people to Islam. And most certainly Allah swore by time, wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr, that verily by time all of mankind is in a state of loss, except those who believe and do righteous deeds and help each other. They join together. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. They join together in the teaching of truth and they support each other in patience. That's the recipe for true success, brothers and sisters. And I ask Allah that He gives me and that He gives all of you and all of us success in this dunya and success in the akhirah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.